cryptid upset no one bothered to inform him of his tragic backstory. Part 8, I think. By Crimson Seekers. Yakitori Simp, at Hawks Official. I take 1 day off. I turn my phone off for 1 day. It's pretty late. My agency's PR department has already gone home for the night, but I want to address this as soon as possible. Yes, the documents the League of Villains have released about me and the Legacy program are true. There's no point in me lying about that. No, I will not be accepting any interview requests or answering any questions about this. Not only is there an open case about this, and my safety is somewhat at risk due to the situation, I'm also not comfortable talking about this at the moment. Maybe in the future, but not now. I do want to address this, however. Amidst all of this, my real name has been made public knowledge, and I've noticed people have already begun using it in place of my hero name. I'd highly prefer if this wasn't the case, and that all of you continue referring to me as Hawks. Ever since I was 6, and in a way, before that, the only thing that has ever been mine was my name. The Commission basically owned everything else, including my body. But my name was mine, and it is mine, and I deeply dislike people using it without my expressed permission. You can use my name for official, informative purposes, like news articles about what's been revealed today, but apart from that, for unrelated purposes where my real name is unnecessary, I'd prefer to be referred to as Hawks. Thank you all for understanding. Tsukiyomi, at Reveling in the Dark, at Dimension Raven Way, replying to at Hawks Official. I'm sorry this happened to you, Hawks. It's been an honor learning under your mentorship. Yakitori Simp, at Hawks Official, replying to at Dementia Raven Way. You're the best intern I've ever had. Gonna miss working with you while I'm in court. Tsukiyomi, at Reveling in the Dark, at Dementia Raven Way, replying to at Hawks Official. I'm the only intern you've ever had. Yakitori Simp, at Hawks Official, replying to at Dementia Raven Way. You're probably the only intern I'll ever take, too. So don't worry about it, Tsukiyomi. You'll always be my favorite baby bird intern. Chargebolt Go Way, at IRL Pikachu, replying to at Hawks Official at Dementia Raven Way. Tokoyami, amongst all the other shit going down in the world, nothing gives me more instant serotonin than you and Hawks caring for each other. Tsukiyomi, at Reveling in the Dark, at Dementia Raven Way, replying to at IRL Pikachu and at Hawks Official. Nothing embarrasses me more than you talking about it. Yakitori Simp, at Hawks Official, replying to at Dementia Raven Way and at IRL Pikachu. No, let him speak. Tsukiyomi, at Reveling in the Dark, at Dementia Raven Way, replying to at Hawks Official and at IRL Pikachu. No. Chargebolt Go Way, at IRL Pikachu, replying to at Dementia Raven Way and at Hawks Official. Yes! Okay, Dabi wheezed, bracing himself on his knees as Twice handed him a bottle of water. Can we all agree? He paused to swish a mouthful of water around his mouth before spitting it out, trying to keep any bile from getting in his seams. That Grand Theft Auto doesn't count as driving experience, and that we're not allowing Spinner to drive anymore. Oh, fuck you too, Spinner responded incredulously. Ooh! Toga cried excitedly, bouncing on the balls of her feet. Dabi held up a hand, cutting her off as he straightened up. Mario Kart doesn't count as driving experience either. She let out a disappointed noise. Well, Twice tapped his fingers together nervously. None of us ever really got a chance to get our driver's license, or even take lessons, and Kurogiri is with Shigaraki and Compress on the other side of town. We can walk or take the train next time. I don't fucking care if we get caught. Dabi bent his head to his arm briefly, to wipe his mouth off on his sleeve.
Now, before I have an aneurysm, which building are we looking for?
That one, Spinner said, pointing across the street at a plain concrete building.
Not as dilapidated as I was expecting,
Dabi commented. Dilapa what? He twisted his head around to look at Toga, whose face was twisted up in confusion. Right, she hadn't gotten further than middle school. To be fair, Dabi didn't even know his own education level, but he'd been a bit of a bookworm for his investigations before joining the League.
Basically, I'm saying it doesn't look like shit.
Oh, okay. They quickly crossed the street, not bothering to walk down to the crosswalk. They were villains, what harm was a little jaywalking gonna do? And they stood in front of the building. Right, Spinner said, glancing over the notes he had written down in a dingy notebook. According to Grian, Arbeichio was held in here once, and it's been abandoned with little to no activity since, so we can probably find some substantial evidence of his whereabouts here. He tucked the notebook into his pocket. Let's go. Toga let out a cheer and took the first stride forward, reaching for the door handle and... It's locked, Toga said blankly, pausing before aggressively trying to turn the handle faster, as if that would gain her entrance.
Yeah, I can hear that, Dabi muttered,
pinching the bridge of his nose.
This investigation was going to be a nightmare. He could already tell.
Who locks an abandoned building? Spinner asked incredulously. What do we do now? Twice asked. Shigaraki can't dust it, Compress can't mobilize it, and Kurogiri can't warp us in.
Let's just go home already.
I don't have any useful blood on me, Toga announced, as she rifled through her pockets, a pout upon her face. Well, let me find their measurements, Twice murmured, reaching to fish out his notebook. Dabi, listening to the conversation, took quick stock of their surroundings and came up with a far less convoluted plan.
Save it, he told Twice. Give me a sec. Locks are my specialty.
Spinner raised a skeptical eyebrow. Since when could you pick... locks? He trailed off, staring in shocked silence as Toga giggled hysterically at the window Dabi just threw a brick through.
See?
Dabi said casually, as if he hadn't just shattered a window. He strode forward, boots crunching on the glass, leaning away slightly from the window as he gave it a few whacks with his elbow to widen the hole.
My specialty.
Okay, that's some bullshit, Spinner commented sourly. Dabi shrugged in response before vaulting himself through the window.
Worked, didn't it?
Dabi heard Spinner's sigh as the other three climbed in behind him, quickly fanning out across the first floor. Anything interesting? He called after a few minutes, kicking a rotting chair aside and watching in amusement as it fell apart. Nothing here, Twice chirped. I found a file cabinet, Toga called, underlined by a hollow metal sound and the deafening screech of rusted drawer slides. Nothing. Toga! Be careful with the file cabinet, you're gonna get tetanus! Spinner snapped. Dabi froze, the words tugging at something in the back of his mind. I'll be fine, Toga whined, and the shaking sound from the file cabinet increased. Oh, fuck. Shit! Dabi shouted, slapping his forehead in frustration. Is that a stub my toe shit or I'm about to get murdered shit? Twice asked. Fucking die for all I care. It's an I just remembered something important way too late shit, Dabi bit back. Well, unless it's something important that's about to get us murdered, it can wait. We don't know how long we have until someone calls the police about you throwing a brick through a window, Spinner yelled. Fuck off!
Burnt toast. Hey, Hawks, I just remembered that I forgot to separate those files you told me to be careful about from the main bullshit pile. Discount Icarus. I'm aware. Burnt toast. Wait, what? How do you know? Discount Icarus. Because the information in those files got me put into witness protection, dipshit. Tell Shigaraki I'm not going to be available apart from over text for a while. Burnt toast. What the fuck you in witness protection for? Discount Icarus. Sometimes I forget that none of you watch the news, and I'm painfully reminded every single time. Burnt toast. What the fuck is that supposed to mean? Are you being targeted by the Yakuza or something? Discount Icarus. You know what? Close enough. Let's go with that. I'm being targeted by the Yakuza. Burnt toast. What the fuck, Hawks? Tragic backstory unlocked. At Hawks Official. I went to my first 2 therapy sessions this week, and I can already tell it's going to basically be bi-weekly episodes of, I didn't know that was trauma. Mayu, at Finals Crunch, at Story Enchanted, replying to at Hawks Official. Hawks, are you okay? Tragic backstory unlocked, at Hawks Official, replying to at Story Enchanted. As I'm slowly beginning to find out, no. Fumi. Hey, Hawks. Hawks. This is about what's on the news, isn't it? Fumi. Yeah. I just wanted to ask a question, if you don't mind. Hawks. I think I already know where this is going, but go ahead. Fumi. You and Toya didn't go to school together, did you? Toya's boarding school was the commission, wasn't it? Hawks. Yeah, it was. Fumi. Would you mind if I asked you about Toya again? About what actually happened this time? Hawks? Hawks. I'll call you. This won't be a great conversation to have over text. I call dibs on being on Kurogiri's team for the rest of the fucking time, Dabi called, as he burst back into the bar, desperately trying to ignore the rolling of his stomach. I also motion that nobody except Compress is ever allowed to drive, ever again. We got back here alive, didn't we? Spinner muttered sullenly. Barely. How did it go? Kurogiri asked, smoothly inserting himself into the conversation to prevent a fight from breaking out. Dabi raised an eyebrow, easily able to see what the bartender was doing, but shrugged and took a seat at the bar regardless, accepting the glass of whiskey that was set in front of him. We managed to figure out where Abe was taken, so we'll handle that tomorrow, Dabi muttered over the rim of his glass, taking a sip before he continued. There's a warehouse near the edge of Midori Ward. We'll either find him or lead to his current location, or, most likely, his grave. He took another sip of the whiskey, relishing in the burn down his throat. You? Compress hummed. We managed to get to the Nakamura Yakuza cell, but it turns out Shirai Tora and Ono Ayazako have already been dead for years, so we've crossed that lead off our list. Hot take, but what if we just cut down the amount of Yakuza leads we have to deal with? Dabi said. They turn up dead like 95% of the time. Because there's the whole other 5% that gives us a chance, and gets us closer to figuring this whole thing out, Kurogiri responded. Dabi grunted. The bartender shook his head, almost fondly, in response, as he pulled up another glass and half-filled it with blood, from some mystery container he kept under the counter, and Dabi was vaguely afraid to ask where it came from, before topping it off with a Capri Sun. He stuck in a tiny drink umbrella and a silly straw in the glass before handing it to Toga, who beamed and started sipping at it happily. "Twice. Would you like anything to drink?"
"Just water. I want to get wasted."
"I also talked to Hawks," Dabi continued. "He's not going to be available other than over text and occasional calls for a while, since he got himself stuck in witness protection."
"How the fuck does the number 2 hero get himself in witness protection?"
Shigaraki asked incredulously, looking up from his phone. Dabi shrugged. "He's being targeted by the Yakuza or something."
"Dumbass,"
Shigaraki grunted. "Anything else important I need to know now?"
"Dabi taught me a new word,"
Toga said brightly. Almost immediately, Dabi could feel the unimpressed stares of both Kurogiri and Compress on him. He looked between the two of them incredulously. "What? I didn't teach her anything bad." "She's still only 17, so you should all be watching what you say around her," Kurogiri reprimanded. "You say this as you serve alcoholic drinks in front of her?" Dabi muttered sullenly into his glass.
"It wasn't a bad word," Toga whined. "It was a big, fancy word. I even know how to use it in a sentence."
"Oh," Compress intoned interestedly.
"Mm-hmm,"
she grinned.
"Here. Tomura looks dilapidated."
Dabi snorted whiskey out through his nose. Hawks announced new number 1 hero, by Matsumoto Chie. Amongst all the chaos and scandal of the past several months, it was almost surprising to realize that the first Billboard chart of the year was released this week. In a shocking yet still somewhat unsurprising turn of events, Hawks has gone up a rank to become the new number 1 hero, while Endeavor falls back to number 2. Hawks has broken the record for the youngest number 1 hero, achieving the rank at age 23, beating out the previous record holder All Might, who achieved the rank at age 24. Not only does Hawks comfortably claim the lead in almost every popularity poll, but his case rate this season has been through the roof, so despite having to take 3 past weeks off, as he is in witness protection, he has still managed to snag the number 1 spot. Hawks was unable to join any journalist or TV host for a traditional post-Billboard interview, but he did have this to say on Twitter. "I want to thank everyone who supported me this past season, and also declare how proud I am of my fellow heroes for how much we've stepped up as an institution these past few months. Faith in heroes has wavered, and everyone has been doing their best to show that we are still reliable. I've never seen a season before where I've seen so many heroes out there, not caring about fame or popularity, just trying to save as many people as they can. I know that sounds a bit hypocritical coming from me, of all people, but it's true. Rescuing people and knowing that I'll be able to make them feel safe is what makes this job worth it to me." Read full thread here. Other notable changes in the rankings since the last Billboard include Mirako just barely getting ahead of Edgeshot for the number 4 spot, and Ryukyu claiming number 9. Gang Orca has. Read more.
"Oh, hey Sunagu,"
Keigo greeted as he opened the door, stepping aside to allow the hero in.
"Let me guess, you're my babysitter of the day?"
Sunagu turned, and while Keigo wasn't able to see half his face, he still very clearly got the disappointed stare. "Security detail, Hawks."
Yeah, I know,"
he responded flippantly, closing the door behind him.
"Just figured, if I'm gonna die, might as well have fun while it lasts, you know?"
"Hawks."
"You can call me Keigo if you want,"
he interrupted, already making his way into the kitchen, continuing to cube the chicken breast he pulled out of the fridge for a stir-fry. Sunagu paused. "Are you sure?"
Keigo shrugged. "You're like one of the 3, maybe 10
depending on what constitutes a friend, friends that I have. And I'm including my intern in that count. Go nuts. Just not on social media or on the street. Alright, but Keigo, you can't be so flippant about your safety, he said, in that I'm concerned about you and will proceed to shove my care at you until you accept it tone of his. Keigo sighed, glancing up at the hero as he took a seat on the other side of the counter, watching him work. He set down the knife and wiped his hands on the towel, leaning forward to set his elbows on the counter. I am taking this seriously, Keigo started, letting his face fall flat. I'm just used to it, I suppose. I grew up in the commission. I always knew this was going to be a possibility. They don't like loose ends. They want the hero system to appear as secure and strong as possible. And if taking out a few people can prevent anarchy, well, they'll do it. He sighed, blowing a stray bang out of his face. I've been distancing myself from the commission recently, before all of this ever happened. I knew that there was a risk that they'd see me as getting too rebellious and decide to cut their losses with me. Try and prevent something like what's happening right now. Keigo stood back up and shrugged, picking up the knife to continue his work. I've always known this might happen, albeit I thought I'd make it a few more years before it did. The only difference now is that other people know about it. A silence fell between them, stretching on for a few moments too long. Keigo glanced up, taking stock of Tsunagu's stricken look, before he finally seemed to find the words for a response. I'm just concerned you see joke about your life, he said. A lot of us care about you, and we're not used to it, so it's harder for us to find anywhere near as much amusement in the situation as you do. Keigo gave him a blithe smile. Well, I never claimed to have healthy coping mechanisms. Tsunagu gave an amused huff of air. I never implied you did. Shove off. I only just started therapy. Give me a few months, I'm gonna rock your world. Blow you away with how healthy my coping mechanisms are. Tsunagu laughed, and Keigo grinned, counting it as a win. But seriously, Tsunagu, jest beanest, father figure I never had, light of my life. Where are you going with this? If I do die, I want you to promise one thing for me. He could practically see the other biting his tongue to keep himself from saying anything about being negative, but after a moment he nodded. Be the flower boy at Rumi's wedding, it'd be fucking hilarious. Keigo. And there was the exasperated tone he was so used to hearing out of the fiber hero. He cackled. Come on, it's funny. You promised me. I'll even put it into my will to make sure it happens. I want to see it recorded and a video of it left for me to enjoy for the rest of my afterlife. Tsunagu sighed, rolling his eyes fondly. You're not gonna die. I'll make sure of it, if only so I don't have to do that. Keigo laughed. Guess I'll have to tell Rumi we're going with Plan B. Plan B? Yeah, we're gonna ask All Might to be the flower boy. Guy's a real sweetheart, he wouldn't say no. Please don't torment him like that, Tsunagu groaned, rubbing his forehead tiredly. Who's tormenting him? We're just asking if he'd like to have a role at her wedding. You know exactly what I mean. Keigo's laughter was cut off by the jingle from his phone. Pausing to set the knife down, he wiped his hands before picking up the device, glancing at the screen to check who was calling. Incoming call. Back alley magic man. Compress. Sorry, I need to take this, he said apologetically. Private call. I'll be in my bedroom. At the conflicted look on the other hero's face, Keigo rolled his eyes and floated a feather over to him, tucking it behind the man's ear. I'll let you know if I'm about to get murked, okay? He called over his shoulder as he patted away. Keigo. Atsuhiro startled as the door to the bar burst open, twice Toga and Spinner flooding in with clear panic, and Dabi's limp, wet body held between them. He was already out of his seat and guiding them to set the unconscious man down on the couch before he could even think about it. "What happened?" Kurogiri asked, joining the group by Atsuhiro's side. Shigaraki wasn't joining the rest of them crowding around on the couch, but he noted the younger man carefully watching the commotion out of the corner of his eye. Spinner helped Atsuhiro wrestle Dabi out of his muddy jacket as he talked. "There was a gang camping outside the warehouse. We got into a fight and one of them managed to whack Dabi in the head. Knocked him unconscious and then he fell into a lake. Twice fished him out and he was still breathing, so we didn't have to do any CPR. He hasn't woken up though, and there's all sort of gunk on him." Atsuhiro could see where the worry was coming from. Dabi already had unknown amounts of possible head trauma, and he could easily spy what might have been mud from the lake bed in the seams of his scar and healthy skin. "Shit," he cursed under his breath. "We need to strip him. See where the infection risk is at. Twice, go get some clean clothes from his room. Toga, medical supplies." "On it," the two chimed in unison, dashing off to their assigned tasks. Kurogiri wordlessly warped towels into his hands, crouching down beside Dabi and gently scrubbing him dry, as Spinner and Atsuhiro peeled his wet clothes off. Luckily, it appeared that the scars on Dabi's legs had been spared by his habit of wearing leather pants no matter what the weather. When Toga and Twice reappeared, Atsuhiro simply poured hydrogen peroxide over those seams, while Kurogiri kept Toga turned around until they slipped clean boxers and sweatpants onto him. They left the shirt off, but while his lower half had been spared, Dabi's thin cotton shirt had been every bit as useless against the mud as his pants had been effective. "How the fuck do we keep him from getting infected?" Spinner asked, biting at his nails. "Is the more immediate concern the hit on his head that he hasn't woken up from, or the very real infection risk?" Twice asked, wringing his hands together, Toga vibrating with nervous energy at his side. "Let him rot for all I care!" "Call Hawks!" Shigaraki's raspy voice floated over from where he sat in a cushioned chair, DS held up to his face. "Heroes get EMT training or something. Probably has a better idea what to do than the rest of you dipshits." "Right, let's do that," Spinner agreed breathlessly, turning back to the prone man on the couch. Atsuhiro fished his phone out of his pocket, handing it to Toga. "Call Hawks. Put him on speakerphone." Toga nodded, and they all waited in tense silence as the phone rang once, twice, 3 times. Just as it was about to ring out. "Hello?" "Oh, thank God," Spinner muttered. "We have a situation," Atsuhiro started. "Not sure if you've heard, but I literally cannot leave my apartment without police escort." He could practically hear Hawks rolling his eyes. "You have EMT certification, right?" There was a beat of silence. "Who's hurt?" he asked, voice serious. "It's Dabi." Atsuhiro looked to Spinner, who took his cue to explain what happened. "He got hit in the head, knocked unconscious, and there's a ton of mud in his seams." "No, just go for the 2 worst problems he could cause, why don't you?" They could hear Hawks mutter, before he spoke louder. "All right, Spinner, I need you to stabilize Dabi's head. Keep it perfectly in line with his spine. Don't let it move any more than I assume it already has. Compress, I need you to tell me who's there and what medical supplies you have. Need to know what I'm working with." "The entire league is here. For medical supplies, we don't have much more than a basic first aid kit." "All right, Kurogiri and Toga, I need you to rob a hospital and a pharmacy. I'm texting you a list of what you need to pick up now." Almost directly on cue, Kurogiri's phone buzzed. He glanced at it before nodding and quickly ushering Toga off to leave. "Twice, if there's any latex gloves or medical masks in the base, go get them and bring them to Compress." Twice chirped in affirmative before running off. "Compress, I'm putting you in charge of direct treatment. I'm assuming you have fairly steady hands for all those magic tricks you do?" "Of course," Atsuhiro responded, allowing himself a flicker of pride for the recognition of his skills, before quickly refocusing on the situation at hand. "Great. Spinner, I need you to tell me if there's any discoloration around Dabi's eyes, any fluid leaking from his nose. Spinner paused for a second, looking down directly at Dabi's face before responding. There's no discoloration apart from his scars, and nothing's leaking out of his nose. All right, that's good news, Hawks said, a note of relief in his voice that Atsuhiro himself felt. It's likely he doesn't have any major brain injury, but if he starts to throw up or gag, you need to turn his head and body on its side as one, keeping it in line with his spine. I still need you to check for a concussion. I'm texting you the instructions on how to do that right now. Right, Spinner responded, dutifully taking out his phone and beginning to follow whatever guide Hawks has sent him. Is he gonna die? Shigaraki called in the slight lull. Hawks paused before answering. If we do this right, it's very unlikely, and he could make a full recovery in a few weeks. He better not, Shigaraki muttered under his breath, sinking deeper into the armchair. Hate to have wasted this much time on a party member only for him to die. Hawks let out a short laugh. Compress, I'm going to give you a rundown of what I'll need you to do, and I'll stay on the line to walk you through it as soon as Kurogiri and Toga get back. I'll do my best, Atsuhiro promised solemnly, stilling himself to listen carefully as Hawks began to talk. This might get pretty bloody, but here's how it's going to go down. Anywhere there's mud or dirt, you need to pull out his staples. Throw them into the trash when you do that. There's no reusing them. All right, he said, nodding along even though he and Hawks couldn't see each other. He inclined his head in thanks as Twice reappeared, handing over the gloves and masks Hawks had taught him to fetch. Actually, before you do any of that, there's enough infection risk as it is, so you're going to go into the kitchen and wash your hands while I keep talking. Then you're going to pull on 2 layers of gloves and a mask. Make sure your hair is securely out of the way before you do that. Atsuhiro stood up to do as requested, pinning his dark hair out of the way with some barrettes Toga had left lying around. Twice picked up his phone, trailing dutifully behind him so Hawks could continue giving his instructions. You're going to have to gently pull the seams open, and be careful about it. I don't know how strong they are without the staples, which is where this could get messy. And you're going to have to wash the dirt and mud away with whatever bottled water you have lying around. Atsuhiro nodded absently, rinsing the soap off his hands and drying them before beginning to pull on the gloves and mask. Then you're going to have to take some sterile wipes and go over it, making sure that you've got them completely clean. Then go over the entire seam and surround the area with disinfectant. Toga and Kurogiri should be coming back with some medical staplers, and you're going to use those to staple his skin back together. Are you sure this will work? Atsuhiro asked, as he headed back to where Dabi and Spinner were. I don't mean to criticize your knowledge, I'm just worried. Yeah, Hawk sighed. Don't worry, I get it. I didn't exactly go to med school, so this definitely isn't perfect advice. I'm just doing the best I can with what I know. But there's still a chance of infection. That's why I'm having Kurogiri and Toga stop at a pharmacy. We're going to be sticking Dabi on as much amoxicillin as we can safely give him for a few weeks. Hey, Hawks, Spinner interrupted. He doesn't seem to be showing any signs of a concussion or anything. There was a moment of silence. The only response he had to getting hit on the head is being knocked out? No head wound, no spinal fluid, no concussion, no nothing? Spinner shrugged. As far as I can tell, yeah, pretty much. I really wonder how the fuck he has amnesia when his skull is apparently made out of fucking steel.